I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Aliza Gekkota is here. Hi.
Hi, hello.
I appreciate you coming on. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Oh, my name is Aliza Gekkota. I am an English VTuber, fairly new here, and I stream on Twitch.
And you have a pond.
I do. I forgot to mention I'm part gator, so I do love me some ponds.
Yeah, that would be probably a good thing to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm part gator. Oh, thank you.
Part alligator, yeah.
Yes. Well, it will come up in conversation.
Yeah, they might notice.
Yeah, they might. So I appreciate you coming on. When did, so you said you just barely new on the scene. When did you get started?
Mm-hmm. So, I actually was checking my channel earlier to see when I did start, and it was in early June, I believe. I made the account, but my very first stream, I can tell you, I believe it was July 5th.
Ah, so very, very early. We're very early in the career yet.
Yes.
Wow. So how did it go, that first stream?
Pretty much as well as you'd expect. I mean, I wasn't expecting a whole lot of folks. I had a couple drop in, but I didn't have any, like, tags. Like, I just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it was mostly just for me to get a feel for, like, how to talk.
It is a whole different animal, isn't it? Rather than, even if you're used to being on stage or something like that, now you've got an entirely different group and an entirely different way you have to interact with them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really know how I was going to do going into it, so I figured, like, the first couple, I'd just kind of be figuring out how to speak to people in this medium.
So have you been in front of people before in an entertainment situation?
No. I mean, yeah, but not as, like, the main focus. I've played in orchestras before, so I guess that would be the closest thing.
What instrument?
Viola.
Viola. Whoa.
Yes.
Now, that is an instrument.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have absolutely no chance with that one because my hands are so switched up, and I wouldn't know which one to do which with.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so are there left and right-handed viola players?
Yeah, they have different ones with different chin rests. I've only encountered right-handed, but they do make different ones.
I imagine it really changes the game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because they're all pointed the same direction.
Yeah. It's all instruments are discriminating against us left-handed people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how long have you been a viola player?
I have to have been more than like 7 or so years now. I started when I was quite young.
Yeah.
Might be touching 8 or 9.
Oof. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I enjoy the sound of a good viola. I'm a classical snob when it comes to some music.
I do love classical music.
Yeah, I'll listen to anything that was pretty much before 1900.
Oh yeah, that's when the good stuff was.
Yeah, in fact, I listened to the Bach channel on the stream on the Boston radio station. They do 24/7 Bach, which is, pretty good for background music, I would think, if you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, beyond that, did you? What type of orchestra were you in? Was it school? Was it outside of school?
It's school-related orchestras, so nothing fancy, but it was fun.
Well, I thought it was pretty fancy. My school didn't have no viola in it.
It was a pretty big school.
As if we did. We just barely had a triangle.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not much of a music department.
Actually, it was just one angle. We couldn't afford the third side. But yeah. But it was it's good to hear somebody playing the instruments like that. There's a lot of talent involved in that, and a lot of work too.
Thanks.
Getting everything put together. So Are you going to play it online?
At some point, I think I might. I haven't played in a hot minute, so I'd have to get the strings replaced, but
Mm.
at some point I'd like to.
Oh, let me know, please. I'm going to keep an eye on it because I want to hear. I want to hear this.
Sure will. I
I
can't guarantee it'll sound great,
That's all
but
right.
I
That's all
can
right.
try.
But the so right now you are doing what online when you are going on
Like when I
when you're
like when I
streaming?
stream.
Yeah.
Well, I mostly play video games. I've got quite a collection. I've been doing a couple collabs
Hmm.
and a couple just like hanging out streams.
Yeah.
But I mostly try to have something going on for the viewers.
Yeah. What games are you playing?
So I mostly switch between Overwatch. I've been working on competitive. I've had a couple indie games I've been rotating in and out of, like RimWorld and Sky.
Hmm.
And I also have a little playthrough I'm doing with Wizard 101 to bring back those nostalgic days. And I'm gonna start streaming Half-Life soon.
Oh, cool! Absolutely cool. RimWorld looks really interesting to me. It also looks really frustrating.
Yes, it is my favorite game of all time, and
Yeah.
I have sunk a silly amount of hours into it.
You get everything going really well, and then suddenly everybody's dead.
That's exactly how it goes.
Yeah. But it does look like a game that would keep you going for hours and hours and hours, and then
Hmm.
you'd rip out your hair because one thing came in and kill everything. Uh,
Yes.
you've played enough now. How long can you last on RimWorld?
Uh, Honestly, I start when I start getting to like the in-game 2, 3 year mark, I like have a hard time maintaining it just because I get bored and want to make a new one.
Mm.
But I can get in for a couple of years.
Oh wow, that's I would get in for about 20 seconds and then I don't know trip on a rock or something. But it really does look like if once you know what you're doing, you can get something going. Does it depend a lot on how the world is seated?
Yes, entirely.
Mm.
So, it does take, it's a bit of a learning curve to get the hang of everything,
Hmm.
but the game is based on primarily three storytellers. So they are like AI and they basically control the entire way your game works. So there's classic, which slowly ramps up difficulty,
Hmm.
like a chill mode where there's large spaces in between events.
Right.
And my favorite, which is random, where things happen randomly, just as like they would in, the
Yeah.
real world. And there's also difficulty settings you can attach to each one. So
Oh,
depending on what you pick, you can have a very different experience.
oh, and the world could be different too. I mean, you could end up with something that's very hostile to start with.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get that a little bit because I used to play a lot of the Oxygen Not Included game.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and I couldn't. It stopped working on my computer, so I couldn't. It updated too much, I guess. But there you had seeded worlds too, and you a lot depended on how your world got seeded,
Uh-huh.
whether or not you could, if you have no food, you're not going to live. Um, but there's a lot to play in that. But here it sounds like you've got yourself. You're about pro level now.
I don't know about a pro, but I do very much like the game.
Yeah, yeah. It's. Have you been streaming it much, or is it one you just play in your spare time?
I mostly play in my spare time. I have one stream of it up, but I've been having difficulties getting OBS to like get it to show, so I've
Mm,
been putting it off until I can fix that.
stupid OBS. You
I know,
kick it every once in a while, make sure it's going the right way. Um,
right?
what are the games that you would like to put on? So you got a list of them, but are there some that
I
you're looking
do.
forward to in the future?
Yes, so I am going to be doing some Half-Life
Hmm.
very soon. I generally really like Valve games, so Portal as well would
Hmm.
be fun to do. I have a whole list. Let's see. I also would love to do the Elder Scrolls. That's another one of my favorite series of
Yeah.
games. I have Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim to play. Um, and I might play some Ark, Survival Evolved for those dinosaurs to,
Oh,
match the brand.
yeah. Well, hey, you got to give a nod to your ancestors
Mm-hmm.
when it comes right down to it. So yeah, it sounds like you've got everything set up. You've had those games set and ready to go.
Yes, I got a whole list.
Yeah. So why and when did you make the decision to become a VTuber?
That is a great question. So I had on and off like watched or kind of kept up with VTubers for like a year or so now. I'd heard of Hololive because they're huge,
Mm-hmm.
and my friends were really into Hololive. And we were sitting around one day, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I, applied and got in? And I sent in an application, and I'm not, a lot of people send in applications, but I was sitting there thinking, like, even if I don't get in, like, I think that might be kind of fun to do just by myself. So I started just doing indie stuff, and I'm having fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're keeping it rolling.
Yeah, that's the biggest part is having fun with it. And
Mm-hmm.
when some, I imagine it's pretty tough once you get to a certain level, and if you are at the point eventually where you're making a little bit of money on it, you're not so much relying on it, but it's nice to have that little bit of extra flow
Mm-hmm.
where it makes that switch over from being something fun to do to being a job.
Mm-hmm.
And the fun starts to drain out a little bit. Are you worried about that happening somewhere down the line?
Yes, but also no at the same time. You definitely do want to make sure you have that balance where you can still enjoy what you're doing
Hmm.
without it consuming you. I've seen that happen to a lot of creators before, or creators that are very conscious about it.
Yeah.
But outside of this, I study herpetology, which once started as just an interest, passion, something I enjoy, and I've been starting to turn it more into a career.
Mm.
So I can see that there is a way to do what you love and do it for, livelihood as well. But you're right, you definitely got to make sure you keep in mind why you started.
Herpetology. That
Yeah.
that's something that the average 12-year-old in eighth grade probably doesn't think about as something to do later
Yep.
on.
Yep.
But when did you get interested in it?
I know exactly when I was 12 years old.
12,
And
exactly.
we're exactly 12. We were at a family friend's house, and they had a dark tank in the corner of the room. And I was like, "You got like fish in there?" And they're like, "No." And they pulled out this creature that I had never seen before in my life, and it was a leopard gecko.
Uh,
And I was like, "That is so like weird. I did not know you could have that in your house. I didn't know you could have it as a pet." And I was just like fascinated
yeah.
by this little dude, and he was sitting on me and hanging out, and I'm like, "This is fantastic." So I did research, begged my parents, and um on my 13th birthday, I got my little leopard gecko.
Mm.
And I have now garnered a little collection myself and just gotten more and more into it as a hobby, as a career. I mean, I research them all the time. I just think they're just such cool animals, and part of why I wanted to do this was to tell people about them because I think there's a stigma that they're gross or weird or
Yeah.
pests.
Yeah, that's cool. That is absolutely cool. Remind me, because I've got a couple people that are into that are doing streams based on their affinity toward nature that you might be interested in talking with a little
Hmm.
bit. Um, but the nature of geckos themselves, they're pretty amazing, really. I mean, there's a lot of things they're able to do for being. I mean, an outside person looking in looks at a gecko as a very basic animal, uh, but they're very adaptable, aren't they?
Incredibly. All of them, all reptiles and amphibians have something that just makes them entirely different from the next species over.
Yeah. What is it that makes geckos different than your a skink or something along those lines?
So, geckos are notorious for their sticky feet,
Uh-huh.
quote unquote sticky. Now, my guy has claws, and there are some geckos with claws, but generally, the species is able to climb walls. They're nocturnal. They have very large eyes, for their heads, which I find rather charming. I think it's very cute.
Hmm.
And they are one of the few species of lizards, possibly the only one, I'd have to double check, that can vocalize.
Mm.
Most lizards actually lack vocal cords, so the only sound they can produce are like hisses,
Right,
manipulating air.
right.
But geckos can actually make noises, chirps, squeaks,
Mm.
and all sorts of sounds, and they can become very loud in some parts of the world.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting cog in the evolutionary chain,
Mm-hmm.
and it'd be it some see exactly where their branches on the tree
Yeah.
for them to develop that sort of thing. If there's no other types of amphibians that have that sort of thing in their class, um,
Mhm.
so I would imagine that being someone who enjoys geckos, you haven't played Fallout.
I have, and I was very interested when they said geckos, and then I found out they were an enemy, and I didn't like that. I got sad.
I, I never can play Fallout. It's just
I know.
yeah, it's I mean they do get. I mean some of them end up fire breathing, and they can they can defend themselves pretty good.
Yeah.
But I can imagine just the Fallout 1 would be too much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. But the so how many geckos do you have now?
Well, I got one gecko,
Hmm.
and I also have a bearded dragon, a
Ah,
Euromastix lizard, a white tree frog, and an African side-neck turtle. That's my full collection.
good gravy. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That how big is the dragon?
Um, Maybe 2 feet total, but they're mostly tail.
Yeah.
Um, he's a pretty solid sized guy. He fits in my palm though, like I can hold him.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah.
I've seen some of that type shape anyway, not exactly that type because I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm afraid I don't know my herpetology or anything along that. But that are a lot bigger than that. Um, is it a case of maybe in the wild they get bigger?
Um, Sometimes there's different like classifications of bearded dragons. Some get much larger than others. But what happens is frequently in captive breeding, they just breed for colors and stuff, and
Hmm.
they all kind of end up like the same size.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are you a fan or against captive breeding?
Um, I'm open to it in respect to people do want to have them as pets. I mean, I want to have them as pets, so it would be unfair for me to say no entirely, but a large portion, I think 2 or 3 of my critters are rescues,
Mm.
so I got them from folks that owned them before, and I would encourage people that are looking to get exotic pets and have done the research and know how to take care of them to look to see if there's any like mine that need rehoming or need a little love or are non-releasable.
Yeah, and I don't know because all I can think of is other types of animal breeding facilities. Are there ways to unfortunately accentuate the bad genes of some of the
Yes.
geckos, and that exacerbates, I should say, pre-existing conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to get too technical, but when researching genealogy and biology in school, what we learned is that frequently when you breed for one gene, another gene will come along with it. Like, for example, if you have brown or orange hair, you might also be more predisposed to have freckles than, say, if you were blonde.
Mm.
Well, if you breed for certain colors in these animals and you keep breeding and fine tuning and bottlenecking them down, you will get the animal you want, but you don't know what other genes you have now, like, made very concentrated in this one animal.
Mm.
Bearded dragons, for example, there is a morph called a silkback. Normally they have scales on them. They're rough. If they shed, it comes off in patches.
Right. Right.
and you can breed them to be smoother and smoother and have less and less scales. And when you get to this extreme version of the morph, the silkback, they have no scales. It's just skin, and their skin is not designed to shed without the assistance of those scales. So you get nasty cases where they get wounds or difficulty shedding their skin, and it's quite sad.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Again, it's something you have to be very careful with.
Yeah,
And you don't want to, in this case, bring the bathwater with the baby.
right.
In these cases, you want to make sure that these animals are healthy and can enjoy a life just better than what they look like
Hmm.
in these cases. And the when you decide to present this on the channel, are you going to do kind of a weekly type of presentation, or how have you decided how you're going to do that yet?
That's a good question. I haven't decided how exactly I want to do it, but I know that I would like to do like some sort of, I don't even know what I'd call it, Eliza's Science Center, where I just, talk about a certain topic,
Mm-hmm.
or have a like chatting stream where people can ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing might be kind of fun. But no, I haven't decided exactly how I want to do it yet.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it obviously you know what you're doing, and people have any question, and people have them as pets all over the place,
Yeah,
and we'll be wanting to ask you all sorts of questions, and once you get that going, let me know so we can let people know about it. Um,
absolutely.
but other than those types of chats, what do you want to do on your channel? Have you got any other things you'd like to do?
Um, well, I would mostly like to just, I mean, for short-sighted, just like to keep growing, keep putting out content, keep bringing people in so I can keep, telling folks about these animals. I have some collabs I'd like to do at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Couple in mind, but nothing set in stone yet, so I won't, get too much into that. But nothing really. I mean, I'm just kind of enjoying where I'm at, enjoying playing games and talking to people.
Yeah, cool. That's good. And it sounds like you're very comfortable with it. It
Yeah.
and interacting with chat, was that something that was comfortable for you from the start?
Uh, yes, although sometimes I like wouldn't always know how to react to some messages,
Mm,
or like would have a hard time balancing that and like what I was doing, but I feel like it wasn't too difficult.
mm. Say that- There's always going to be somebody throwing you a curveball, no matter what. And
Yeah.
you can't be ready for anybody. And we've unfortunately seen all over the place that there's some people who all they want to do is pour sand in your Kool-Aid. So it's you just
Yeah.
have to shrug them off and keep going. Hopefully, you haven't had to deal with that yet.
A little bit, but at the end of the day, they're not the kind of folks that I want to cultivate my channel for, so it's all right.
There you go. So there. That's a good attitude to have when you're just getting started. Now you're about a little over a month and a half in.
Hmm.
What has surprised you the most about getting your channel started?
In the beginning, I was just surprised that people wanted to watch me.
Yeah.
Even just the couple that I had following, I had several people coming back for like every stream, and I was just very happy, but also, like surprised. I was also surprised how much work it took to like get every little thing just right. Like I see these big streamers and they have like beautiful sets and like a new background every day
Hmm.
and all these outfits and everything planned and perfectly, like set up. Like all their streams are just so professional, and I like understand how much goes into that now.
Hmm. Oh, it does. It does. The presentation does make a lot to do with it, but uh, people don't always come back for that. You can have all the best presentation in the world and do all the hot topic games, but they're still coming back for you in the end. Um,
Yeah.
and how does that strike you when you realize that they are coming back for you?
It makes me want to keep making more videos. It makes me really happy that I can be a part of someone's day and we can just have those, fun little interactions on stream, and it encourages me to keep trying new things and keep making fun videos.
Is it an escape for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's your chance to kind of let loose a little bit.
Yeah, I have a very busy life and I like to just be able to set aside time to, sit down, play some stuff, chat with some people, hang out in the pond.
Well, if it takes off, I mean, really, really takes off. How far you want to go with it?
I would definitely pursue it. I'm not sure. It's hard to even imagine myself, taking it far or getting big, but if it does, I've always been interested in content creation. Even when I was really young, I
Mm-hmm.
thought it would be something I might want to do, at least on the side. I mean, I just really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is enjoying yourself, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, sounds like your followers are enjoying themselves, and
Yeah.
you're going to be presenting something that is certainly with the herpetology and that type of streams for sure, something that isn't run of the mill everybody's doing sort of thing.
Yeah.
It might be a bit of a niche, but at least it's going to be a your niche, and it sounds like you've got a pretty good plan going.
I'm having fun and I really do appreciate the chance to be able to share my love for fun animals and fun games with everybody.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you sharing it with us. Um, it goes both ways. We are lucky that there is this medium available where folks can show us what they got and contribute and help people and help themselves and expand and grow positively. And it sounds to me like you're doing that in aces.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, I really do appreciate you coming on. Now, once you get things rolling, especially when you're ready for that concerto online, please let me know because
I will.
we'll be promoting. And once you get the herpetology stuff going too, because we need to let folks know because again that's something that we need to find the right audience for and draw them in on something like that. Marketing, isn't that fun?
I like to think that there's my people are out there somewhere.
Yeah, they're lost and they need a beacon. Then you can be their beacon.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. Aliza, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and
Thank you for having me.
glad to meet you. Let's do this again, and we'll get you on real soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.